welcome to Sporting Jibberish. I'm Stuart Booth.
I'm Jack Luffman.
Different surroundings today and a completely different location. We are currently located in an office in Studio 1.
Next to obviously the Void sponsoring a fantasy team, so we've used the opportunity this morning.
Yes.
The morning as well.
I know.
Before work.
I know, we've got to get out of here and then get to work. It's going to be a shock. That's why I'm looking a little bit baggy.
It is currently 6 a.m.
Yeah,
that's commitment for them.
It's an early start.
Or madness, I should say.
I can't even see the screen. I'll be honest with you. Right, okay, so this week we are going to be talking Premier League. Little interesting thing that's happened this week is Nuno's gone.
Should never have been there.
Well, and we'll have a little discussion on that. You wanted to put Maguire in there. I guess it's because he's absolutely pants.
Well, Matt Bean, our mate Matt,
yeah.
who a University Big Man United fan, sent me a message. So I'm going to read the message to you, and then
okay.
You can discuss it, and then I've got my own opinions that I've not shared just yet. But interesting.
It sounds like an AA meeting, now, doesn't it? Right, we're going to talk about Jack Timby. I'm going to Scooby-Doo who this is, but you're going to again. Jack's full of surprises this morning. A little bit about the T20 going well.
Yes. Well, fingers crossed.
India and not going well. Looking at fantasy football, we've got the weekly and monthly winners. We're going to start off with the sporting week. So it was the return, I was going to say prodigal son, but the hated son, of Jack Luffman returning to play against the Exiles with his new club, the Wanderers, and a few other Exiles within the Wanderers team. Was it 4 or 5?
Yes, it's 4. The family committee, all 4 of us Exiles.
Founding fathers.
And Sid, 5, and 2 others. There's probably 6 or 7 in our team who have played for Exiles in the past.
Okay, right. Before we get into who won or lost, just talk us through the game. How did you get on?
Personally,
yeah.
So I scored 47 off 30 balls.
Oh, I'm loving that. Considering when he played for Exiles, he couldn't score more than 5.
Yeah, bad environment, you see.
I was able to.
So that was good. I'm disappointed to get out, to be honest. I didn't realise I was on that many. Not that it would have made any difference to the way I play, but hitting the ball all right at the minute. So long may that continue. So it was an interesting game.
So what did you put up? Because you went to bat first?
No, they batted first.
They batted the first.
So they won the toss and elected. No, we won the toss actually, I think, and we asked them to bat first, and we had them 10 for 3 after 2 overs.
It sounds like England the other night.
Yeah, we were well into them, but as is the case, in the format and on the wickets, they dug in, and probably their two best players were in there. It kind of ebbed and flowed a little bit, although they never got away from us. And they ended up with 173, and their captain, he got 100 not out, which is a great effort, but never really got away from us. I was always confident, and we bowled and fielded really well. A couple of lapses, but I mean, amateur cricket, amateur sport at the end of the day, but got a bit feisty 1 or 2 times. Their captain particularly was a bit up for it.
Was it a lot of finger wagging?
I think at one point, I believe it or not, he asked it. I say, just got a bit of banter and maybe nothing too personal, but a bit excitable, stuff like 1 or 2 of the boys.
You can't imagine, can you, cricketers from a distance just wagging the finger?
Yeah. Well, apparently he used to talk of that.
Stop that, young man.
He said to Dave, control your dogs.
Ooh.
And Dave went, don't speak to me like that. So it was a bit. Anyway.
I'm hoping it wasn't said in them exact words. I hope there was a few more expletives.
There were, and it was a lot more tense. It was 40 degrees still as well, so getting heated.
Right. So let's put. They've gone into bat. They've stuck this on. You stepped up. You've got yourself 47.
We're cruising. When I was out, we were 80 for 1 off 10 overs. We made life a little bit tricky for ourselves, if we're going to be blatantly honest. But that's scoreboard pressure in any format. And again, other sides are allowed to bowl well and stuff like that. So did that. Anyway, ultimately, it came down to needing 10 off the last over. And Ash, one of the founding fathers, so to speak, former Exile, had faced 1 ball, the last ball of the previous over, the 24th over. So he's 1 not out for 1 ball, need 10 to win. That's a tough ask for anybody, against anybody, to get 10 off the last over. How much is a tough ask? Well, the lad just bash 2 fours, first 2 balls.
Beautiful.
Puts obviously the bowler under huge pressure, bowls wide, dot ball, single next, win 2 balls to spare. So you can imagine the scenes.
I think I've seen the video where Mr. Luffman is almost entering the field of play with excitement.
Yeah, because me and Dave were sort of behind the rest of the boys, because they would have been intolerable if they'd beaten us. They've been intolerable on social media anyway, and they're lost. Let's face facts, they're lost. So we were like, oh goodness me, and like we knew that we'd thrown it away really from where we were, but yeah, got us over the line, so that was very good. So we're now in the Fab Four. So there's another little pool of us, Valley Boys, Titans, and Exiles managed to get there on run rate. So this week we play Valley Boys.
Ooh, opening game of the season, wasn't it?
Yeah, correct. Then we play Titans, but in the day at the 7, so not on their ground at night. And then on the 20th, when incidentally the old man will be here by then.
Oh, beautiful.
For Exiles.
So hopefully reverse the score with the Valley Boys. Titans should be a little bit closer because they won't be able to field their A team.
Yeah, hopefully not.
And
actually, what helped us is that I don't even think Titans go through with full points against us 3 because I think they lost last week. Mm-hmm. So that helps us out a little bit.
Wowza, so it's all to play for. But even if you go at this point, still a very successful first season.
Massively, because I think the fact of the matter is we probably weren't expecting to be we'd have liked to be as competitive as we've been, but you just don't know. Like in May, we had 4 players.
Yeah, I'm not even considering the fact that you've got through. I'm just thinking the fact that you just beat Exiles just means it's a successful season.
You said that, not me.
Yeah.
What about you? Have you been playing?
I played for the 3rd team on Sunday night against ABC Academy, which is an Arabic academy, and I can only be described as 2 of the best amateur football players of an old age I've ever seen.
Really?
They had a guy in midfield, the captain, and he was just another level, and our midfielders couldn't get near him. And then they had this winger, and he generally looked 30 plus, maybe mid-30s, and he was lightning fast still, and had all the tricks in the book, and he just literally... The only fortunate thing was when he went past one player, he went past the second player, and then we kind of crowded him out. Mm-hmm. But I think he set up 2 of their goals. He was just another level, and I just kept thinking, if I'd played against these 2 in my pomp, I wouldn't have got anywhere near them. These guys were just a different level.
Almost like an untapped source, isn't there, in some areas of the world?
Yeah, and and they seemed very much like they were an Emirati group. But yeah, so they had a really good team. We went 1-0 up, literally not even touched the ball and got given a penalty. They were playing the ball around, they played at the centre half, who leant a bit too far and caught his arm.
Wow.
Refs gives a penalty after he's touched the ball to take the penalty.
Really?
Yeah.
That's never happened before in a game.
Actually, I've never played a game like that
That's
before.
Unbelievable.
And then we went...
Did you score?
I didn't take it, somebody else did. I was playing centre back again. Went 1-0 up, 2-1 down, 2-2, went 3-2 down, and they decided to chuck me up front. First touch, I flicked the ball into the lad who's gone through the goalkeeper, and he's fluffed his lines. Would have made us 3-0. They've then got up the other end and made it 4-2, sorry. And then I've hit a free kick, and it's just got glazed outside of the post and gone wide. But yeah, retrospect, a loss was a fair result. If we'd managed to scrape a draw, it would have been scandalous because they were just another level.
What about vets? No vets football?
No, but just before that, I've never played against a team that are so well organised on a press. And they pressed in waves, and it was bizarre to see and bizarre to play against because amateur football you very rarely see that.
Yeah.
And they were so well drilled. They had literally like the first wave of a press was 3 or 4 of them went in, and then the others kind of sat on top of the back line. And then when that ball went into if you tried to play it to midfield, the second wave press then came.
Wow.
So it was really difficult as a centre back to try and feed into midfield. They were giving to midfielders. I'm like, but I'm seeing this second wave press. And when we go in there, they're getting that first wave turns and that other one, and they kind of squeeze the wheels.
Wow.
But very impressive. But yeah, vets. We had a training session last night. No game this week. We're supposed to play the Turks, who took a veto. So they decided to call a life and
they can do that, can't they?
You're allowed 1 a season, so they use theirs against us. So game next week against Safford, and I think a couple of our ex-players.
I do think you need to get yourself up front though.
Well,
there seems to be a lack of goals from the All-Stars.
Really bizarre is that he played me up front last night in training. So I went training, and T, who's now officially 35, who was playing for the first team, he's kind of a number 10, not a number 9. He played front for their team, and I played front for ours. And I think between us, we probably scored 9% of the goals. And I think he finished like 15, 14 or something. I think I probably scored about 8 or 9. He probably scored maybe a little bit more than I did. So if he's looking at firepower there, I reckon I could form a decent partnership with T. So yeah, we'll wait for the next game. Hopefully, our centre back halves are back, and then I can get a little bit higher up the pitch.
In fact, talking of cricket, I saw one of your. I forgot to say, just reminded me, you centre halves at the cricket at the Aussie game on Saturday night.
Yeah, Dan.
The one who had
Phillips,
the first time
egg on the
I saw you play. He was sat just behind me.
Oh, was it?
His family,
Yeah. So his daughter actually managed to get on TV.
Oh, well, she was right sat behind me.
Oh, not the midweek game, the one that was at the weekend.
Yeah, against Aussie. That's where I saw him. Yeah. They were sat 2 rows behind.
I'll
she was in a shirt, wasn't she?
Yeah, so I'll show you the footage and see if we can actually see you because it zooms in on her.
Oh, right, yeah. I was literally 2 or 3 years. My schnoz must have been on. Cool.
Way out of shadow. Turned and knocked her over.
I suppose I got him in shot.
Yeah. Right, so this week we are going to be talking about Premier League. We're just going to whip through the results, just dead quick, just so because I think we've got so much more important things to quickly talk about, especially with the Spurs thing, which throws up all sorts of questions I need to ask you. So I'll run through them. Leicester 0, Arsenal 2. I watched that game. Arsenal.
You said they were good, didn't you?
Arsenal are very, very good. Leicester just didn't really have much of a bite about them, but Arsenal coming good now. Burnley 3, Brentford 1. I think nobody would have predicted it on current form, but it's not overly surprised when it's happened.
Yeah. I think because with a newly promoted club, those results are always likely, aren't they?
Yeah. Liverpool 2, Brighton 2. Liverpool will kick themselves having gone 2-0 up and then end up drawing the game 2-2. Could have in fact lost the game, I'll be honest with you. Going 2-0 up, could have gone third but was offside, but at the same time it was 2-2, they had a goal disallowed to make it 3-2. Massively missing Fabs in midfield, and I think that showed last night. Came, played an awesome game, won 2-0 last night.
He's an underrated player, isn't he?
Oh, the cover he puts on is unbelievable. I think he would have stopped the ball getting into the box, which causes the issues. And Robertson didn't cover himself in glory for the second goal, but we'll leave that there. Another surprise result, City 0, Crystal Palace 2. And at the beginning of the season, we both said, Patrick Vieira, what on earth is he taking that job on for? Palace are down, but they're not.
He's doing a great job, and I tell you what I like as a player, and I liked him actually because he was West Brom, wasn't he? That Conor Gallagher. Yeah. Because is he not a Chelsea boy?
He is a Chelsea's all on, from Chelsea.
So,
but what was interesting was the sending off for Laporte happened exactly the same in the Arsenal game, where Johnny Evans gets caught with a bang and wrestles him to the floor. And I know he was maybe about 5-10 yards further out, but nobody's catching a bang and he's gone there.
Let's be honest, nobody's catching any striker from that point.
No.
Even somebody who's not rapid, they're not catching. If they've got the ball, 30, 35 yards from goal, nobody's catching, so therefore it's a goal scoring opportunity.
Yeah, and I think Arsenal will probably sit there and go, well, we won the game anyway, but if that hadn't gone that way, and then look at the City game, it's that element of inconsistency.
Massively.
Which will probably frustrate people, but it didn't lay any effect in either of the game because Palace won theirs and Arsenal won their game. Chelsea just can't stop scoring, and I was listening to an article the other day about how high their fullbacks are and how they're encouraged. Jill Wells turned around and said that Tuchel tells them that they've got to play with a bit of freedom. So if Chilwell is the highest left hand point, then left forward it'd be Pulisic, or what's his name?
Havertz.
No, the double-barreled name.
Hudson-Odoi. Is he not?
No. Whichever one.
Loftus-Cheek? No.
Whoever he's playing with up front on the left-hand side is one needs to tuck in, one needs to be furthest apart, but necessarily have to be the same people. So Chilwell could be the man in the box, and the other guy could be left wing, and the same with Reece James on that side. So if Reece James is there and Mason Mount's on that side, one of them has to go high and wide, the other one comes into the box a little bit more.
And the leading scoring goals.
Well, Reece James is the leading goal scorer for the team in the Premiership.
Is he really?
Yeah, for Chelsea. So really bizarre stat there. And Chilwell's not far behind him.
No.
So obviously playing with a lot of openness, and considering they don't have centre forward at the moment. Doing well, but I'll throw this out there now. If anybody finishes with Chelsea, they win it.
I think we said that at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, I think they're just looking at another element.
I wouldn't disagree with you, but I would go. I just still want to rule Man City out.
Like I say, if City can get above Chelsea, then every credit. But I think it's Chelsea, and then I think it's going to be interesting because I can't imagine Liverpool or City will be too far behind.
No, I still think that playing at their best, if you want to and I said this to Mel, man, actually talking to him the week. If you want to see a side play for, I still think Liverpool are the best side to watch because I like the way they just go for it at pace.
Explosive pace, isn't it?
Sometimes watching Man City, when they're at the best, they're unbelievable and then ding, ding, ding. If they're not, it just gets a bit tiresome because they just pass for passing's sake, I think.
There's a definite more directness about Liverpool.
Yeah, and I like that. But I do think that, I agree. I think if I was to pick it now, I'd probably go Chelsea, Man City, Liverpool.
But I think it's making for interesting anyway,
Massively.
whichever way it goes. And then Watford lost to Southampton, which again, it's so much swings and roundabouts with Watford, isn't it? You go get spanked off Liverpool, then go and beat Everton, and then lose at home, which in a game you would have thought you could have got something.
Yeah, I would have thought he'd divide up and gone. If I can get 4 points from those 2 games, I'd be happy.
Yeah.
He's ended up with 3, but probably the reverse way round. So do you move forward? Do you take that? He's had 3 points from his first 3 games.
Yeah.
Is it going to be enough? I don't know.
And the last game of the Saturday was Spurs 0, Man United 3. I didn't watch any of it. So what was your quick take of it?
I only watched highlights because thankfully I was at the cricket. But by all accounts, obviously, we'll talk about what's happened since. It was absolutely woeful. And it's been coming. I told you last week when I watched the first half of the Burnley game, it was woeful.
Interesting stat for you. Spurs have not had a shot on target in 3 halves of football.
I know, since Harry Kane's header in the 44th minute against West Ham.
West Ham, yeah. So
which is a great save.
For a Premiership team that, and I'm going to go into more detail about this, 2 years ago, Champions League final.
Yeah, and with, well, we'll talk about it, but, with 2 of the best goal scorers in the league.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Results in Ollie keeping his job and Nuno losing his. And we'll go into that in a bit more detail. And then on Sunday, I watched the Norwich Leeds game. Norwich huffed and puffed without really doing anything. Leeds also huffed and puffed and only just managed to get over the line simply because of Rafinha. Rafinha was probably the difference.
Yes, he was. I am interested enough. I watched it. I don't know if you've seen it, and I don't agree a lot with what Richard Keith says. But he did in the preview. I don't know if you saw him talking about Calvin Phillips, because he was back, wasn't he? And he asked a question to De Jong and Gray: is he going to make that much difference? And their answer was yes, because in Leeds side they like this. And then it moved on to the Euros, and I completely agreed with Richard Keith saying, yeah, but for me, he had one good afternoon, and that was the first game. So other than that, he just ran about the... And I think he's probably one of the most overrated players in the Premiership at the moment.
Wowzers.
Because people like Declan Rice in that role are just outstripped him, because what he does and what Kante does at Chelsea is, they do all that nitty-gritty stuff, and they might break it up, pass it to centre-halves, but actually when they get an opportunity, they can ping a pass, they drive forward, and they're scoring goals.
Yeah.
Phillips...
Well, talking about that is West Ham won 4-1 Aston Villa. Declan Rice actually did score that one and got an assist, so just adds more fuel to your
point proven. Might drop, off you go.
Yeah, okay, we'll see you next week, Jack. And then the last game was Wolves 2, Everton 1. So our Everton in a bit of a rocky patch and is Rafa under pressure.
Yeah, I mean, I think I said last week that it doesn't surprise me. I think Everton's squad is pretty ordinary.
Yeah.
So it doesn't surprise me at all.
Right, quickly we'll push through the fixtures for this week. So there's a game Friday night or midnight, Saturday for Friday midnight.
Yeah, Friday
night. Because you've obviously changed your clocks again, UK. Thanks. Southampton versus Villa at midnight. The game is on Saturday at 4:30 for us, so 12:30 for you guys. United City, going with the football team to watch that.
Hey, where are you going?
High Five.
Oh, High Five. That's where you had that brunch, wasn't it? Before.
No, I don't think I've ever done that. It's
offside, that's what you want.
Yeah.
High Five, very good.
And then the other games that day: Brentford, Norwich, Chelsea, Burnley, Palace, Wolves. Not really any exciting 3 o'clock kickoffs there. Brighton, Newcastle in the evening time. So if it's after High Five, I'll be going to bed. And then on Sunday we have Arsenal, Watford, Everton, Spurs, Leeds, Leicester, and then West Ham play Liverpool, which is an interesting tie considering how well West Ham are going.
Yeah, good game. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, and we relatively do okay at West Ham, but I don't think the way West Ham are playing at the moment, you can't just. That's definitely not an easy 3 points. But then just moves us nicely on to the Everton Spurs, which will be Conte's first game.
Well, I think he's going to be in the dugout tonight, actually.
Oh, is he? Is he gone?
By the looks of it. So he's took train. They reckon his visa will be through to get in the dugout against Vitesse in the Conference League, whatever. It will be his first.
Sounds bad, that doesn't he? Playing in the conference.
Yeah, they could have called it something different because it's only like the old European Cup, UEFA Cup, Cup Winners' Cup, and then UEFA Cup.
Yeah.
So why have they gone Champions League, Europa League, Conference League? They could have called it like, I don't know,
something decent.
Sport and Jibberish League.
Yeah, that'd be class then. Right, okay, so why on earth, and this is my question to you, is Conte was approached for the job the first time around, said no, what's changed?
Well, I can only go on what he said in his media conference. And he said that at the time that Spurs approached him in the summer, it was the wrong time for him, mainly around the fact he was still too emotional about his exit from Inter. He didn't feel that he was mentally ready to go straight to another job, so I had to turn it down.
He also said that he would never take a job mid-season.
He did. I've got no idea, mate. It's a bit weird, isn't it? Do you know what I think's happened? And this will never minute. I think that he's seen Nuno get a load of grief on Sunday from a woeful performance. He's been coming that. And I wonder whether, because of all those things you just said, he's knocked on leave his door and go. Because he's a very, very quick, and I know they're saying it's because of the reaction of the fans on Sunday that he was quite toxic in there, which is not, Spurs aren't famed for doing as fans, even in some of the real dark times when we had like Christian Gross and people like that. Tottenham fans aren't like that. They said it was a reaction to that. I think it's a combination reaction to that, and I think Conte's actually been, because his mate, Fabio Paratici, or whatever the director for we've got, is his mate. They were together at Juventus for 13 years or whatever.
Yeah, so it leads on to, I'm going to ask you about Fabio, is that this guy was Sampdoria, I think, first. Yeah, to football at Sampdoria, he did well, and then he was only in as assistant at Juventus. He wasn't the actual full director. Right. And Juventus at the time made some absolute woeful signings. Nobody's ever come out and said who were them signings were because of, because it's kind of done with a committee type of thing back then. So you've got this guy that is now your director of football. It's been in place, what, 6 months?
Yeah, just in the summer. It comes to be coming close to 6 months.
So you've got this guy that's not really brought anybody in yet.
No, well, certainly not brought anybody in there as well.
Yeah.
I think old Gil, or young Gil, I should say, has got some potential.
So I just wonder what on earth has gone on, because like I mentioned before, I alluded to, is it 2 years ago you were Champions League final? Let's say 10 years ago you were in a similar position. 10 years ago you were worse than Arsenal, not really a penny to scratch on. You really the only good player at that time was Harry Kane.
If then.
That's coming through.
Yeah.
So you didn't really have much of a squad. And then you seemed to make quite a lot of good decisions. And then from the point of losing Poch, well, every decision from that point there has been questionable. So obviously you've signed Ndembele, who I think is a relatively good player, but just doesn't fit your system. And I just feel like you've got lots of square pegs trying to get in round holes throughout your team that don't match what type of system you're playing or the manager that's coming in. So it makes me then wonder, is Conte's probably seen this in the summer, sat there going, oh, I'm not ready for this, I'm not ready for this. But then a few months later, or 10 games later, and let's be honest, when we're looking at Nuno's results, played 5, won 5, lost 5.
Yeah.
So we talk about sample results, it's not a big enough sample to say if he's been successful.
We're only 2 points out of the top 4 if you're just going on points and results.
So what on earth has happened, and at what point does it lead to Fabio being questioned about what's going on? Because he's come in and his first appointment with Levy instead of appointing Nuno, having openly said they didn't want him to start with, and they wanted, who else did you have? You had Conte, you had Fonseca, you had every man his dog, apart from Nuno.
Yeah, he was definitely 7th choice.
Yeah,
so it's definitely a 10-2, wasn't it?
And then it makes me wonder: is you what's going on in Conte's mind? Is his hand suddenly stronger when he's coming to the table now, going, I want X, Y, and Z, which he didn't get in the summer.
Yeah.
And now Levy's then having to renegotiate, which could, in fact, if it means that Conte's personal terms are better, it means that you're going to potentially lose out in the long run. And I've heard it's only an 18-month contract.
It's an 18-month contract with option to extend. I don't know. All those points are relevant. There've been some since basically what is happening now. What I think he's been promised, and there's rumour that he's going to give a pot of money.
Well, where's the money coming from? Because you're not flush.
Well,
unless you've got a secret investor coming in.
I think there is money there. I just think Levy's just tight. I think there is money there, but again, how much money do you need to rebuild it? Because I would suggest it's quite a lot of money that's needed to if you're going to start competing.
I'm going to throw something out there that I think you could build a squad around Dembele, but you don't rate him enough. Because you've got a £50-60 million player there that should have been an instant impact player. It's not you're buying for the future here. This is a player that you bought at the right age, at the right time to come in and go, he's going to hit the ground.
I think he'll play behind Son and Kane because apparently yesterday in training he played an 11-side game. Both sides played 3-5-2. His traditional system.
Yeah,
so Ndombele will play behind Kane and Son. That's what happened. Yeah. Or Dele, one of the two.
Is Son an out striker?
No, that's the point. He doesn't fit into that. No. The only way he fits in is if they can get that Kane dropping in and going behind again. But anyway, that
and when I looked at your squad as well, your players are depreciating all the time. It's not like you're going to get full value for Son now.
No, exactly.
Kane's now going to be a year older by the time that's
yeah. And I think that's the other part. I think that back to what I was saying, I think the difference is Nuno was not the first choice, so I think, and wrongly so, I feel for him, I do empathise with him, even though he shouldn't have been employed in the first place. Any sign of weakness on his part, they were going to get rid of him.
Yeah. So
we had no chance. He wasn't going to give one chance. Rumour has it he nearly went after the 3 London derby defeats, but then they beat Villa, stay of execution. So there was always going to be an excuse to get rid of him. Conte, I think, has always had a bit of time out of the game. If you've got to believe what he says, probably didn't get what he wanted in the summer. But at that point, I think when they were negotiating, I think they thought they were going to lose Kane. So what we said before, what guy, top manager, going to come into a side that is average, just above average at best, top 7 side, without the talisman and without the promise of using that money?
Well, I think that's it, isn't it? If you're going to get him off for 120, 150 million and then you turn to manager and say, here, Conte, there's the money, then that's a different story.
Yeah, so I don't think that was happening. But obviously now Kane is there. I don't think he'll go in January because nobody buys in January anymore, do they?
Well, not really. It's not famed for it.
So I think that combination of that, the link he has with Fabio, I would hope that he's been promised a pot of money. I think he sees it. The 18-month thing, I think, protects both sides, albeit the rumour is that he will sign a new deal within months after the start. I think that's the deal in place. So I don't know, it's strange. Tottenham got in a mess. But what's going to happen is, my point is this, what should happen now, and I hope will happen, and I think the only reason he would take it is that the rebuilds, or what did Pochettino say in that very famous interview with Lineker after the Champions League final, saying we need some new furniture in the house, and that's never really happened, has it?
No.
One, Ndombele here, a little bit there, a little bit here, but so I can only assume and I only hope that the quality of Conte, of the manager he is, and his history around getting what he wants means that furniture is going to be rearranged.
I think a lot of people won't realise is that how good a manager Conte is. Obviously, he's done really well with teams that have had the money and the investment. But go back to the Italian team that he took over, was one of the worst Italians I've ever seen, and they got through to the quarters and lost on penalties to Spain.
I think you've only got to look at the comments from, I'm not talking about Spurs fans or people. I mean, John Terry, so I hate to say it, but what an appointment from Spurs.
I think for Spurs, it's a real coup.
Oh, it's massive. It's huge, but he's still got the same bunch of players, and he's still got people, like you said, he's still got players who, at their best, 4 years ago, would have probably walked into any side in the Premiership. And I'm not talking about the superstars, I'm talking about the likes of Dyer, Dele, people like that, who now are just question week in. Dele Moore is a perfect example. This is his last chance. I think you'll find out whether Dele's going to be a Spurs player within 3 or 4 weeks, because if he doesn't get picked in any format, in whatever fixture, or given game time by Conte, then he's out the door. So it's interesting. From a Spurs point of view, obviously it's exciting because you do feel, you sense that if he can do what he's done previously and gets the back in.
Makes you wonder is why Conte wouldn't have held out for the Newcastle one, potentially.
Or Man United, potentially.
Yeah, well, that's one of the question marks that maybe why he'd not signed originally. But right,
Anyway.
we'll move on. Maguire, talk to me.
So, our mate Matt, let me find the message, texted me last night, and this is what he said. So, how the hell has Harry Maguire turned into a League Two defender? Only reason he's not been dropped as his captain. Look, he had Bayer giving man of the match performance last night after Varane went off injured, or would have conceded more. Probably 80% of goals since he came back from injury have been down to him. And he thinks that the part of the change of formation is down to him to keep him in the team.
I don't know. Maguire, for me, had an absolute class European Championships.
Mm-hmm.
Was an absolute stalwart for us. Class at the back, good at bringing the ball out, absolute threat in the box off crosses. And you're right, there's something wrong with the United fundamentals. And we talked about defensive cover, talked about how important Fabinho is. Are McFlurry and Fred not offering McFlurry and Fred, are they not offering that defensive cover which then exposes Maguire, and then maybe the fullback's a little bit too high? Without actually sitting down and analysing United's movement, because sure, at one point Wan-Bissaka were one of the highest forward fullbacks, but without actually delivering key crosses that led to goals. So is there too much exposure that's now isolating Maguire, that's now making him look worse than what he actually is?
I think, I'll take your point there, I think McFlurry and Fred are bang average players. I think Matic is still the best, even though he's aging out of those three. In the bang average. Always have done, always will do. My thing about Maguire is this. I do agree that in the two championships for England, he's been very good. And actually, in the last lot of fixtures, we missed him bringing the ball out on that left side. That creates a space for Kane and Sterling because actually the side we played against could just sit back. However, I said at the time when he signed up those years ago, I actually don't think he's that good. He's not. Man United, Hull, he came from Hull, didn't he?
So did Andy Robertson before he took down.
No, but I rated him. Hull could have got 120 million for Maguire for Man United at that time, because there was that big narrative about the fact that they needed centre halves, and he'd just come off the back of that World Cup. He's not an £80 million centre half, and I know people go, yeah, but money's money. He's not an £80 million.
Not when you
centre
compare it
half.
to Van Dijk.
No, absolutely not. And others, even the Varane, are obviously out injured again now for 4 weeks, so they're struggling even more. I just don't think Maguire is. I'm not saying he's a League Two defender, and he's clearly a Premiership defender, but I don't think he's that good. So he's not the superstar of a Van Dijk. I think he's always going to have this blip. I think he's been exposed. And the other thing, the point I'll take from and I love a chance to have a dig at Ollie, from your message, Matt, is the fact that just because you're the captain is not making you immune to being dropped.
Yeah.
Look at Morgan in the T20. He hasn't dropped himself, but he quite openly said in a press conference, if it's for the good of the team, I'm not in the best 11, I will leave myself out.
Yeah.
Just shows that Solskjaer's man management, the ability to deal with, not that I don't think Maguire's got an ego, but the ability to deal with egos, he hasn't got any. Because it's not like, if you drop Maguire for form, I see Smith did it, didn't he, with Mings at Villa. It's not like there's nobody else who can captain it. You've got De Gea there, who's former captain. You've got Ronaldo there, who
Bruno could do a job,
and that's without even thinking.
Yeah.
So
I just wonder now if the search to go for Declan Rice becomes even more, and Declan Rice's price goes up even higher, because, like you said, is that combination play that England had, where they had Rice covering.
Yeah.
Is that Rice would pick up their midfield runners and track and stop. Meanwhile, Fred and McFlurry can't do either or.
And also, just to finish on, let's be honest, he's had a lot of football. I know he's been out injured. He's had a lot of football, and that's I think sometimes we underestimate what that sum would have taken out of the players, mentally and physically. And you look at all the superstars, if you like, of that tournament, they're all struggling a bit.
Yeah.
Maguire, Kane, Sterling. I know Mount scored a hat-trick of the week, but he's been fairly quiet up until that point. There's not one of those England players that you would say, other than Declan Rice, I think, there's actually gone, they're playing at their pinnacle.
Yeah.
He'll come back. I just don't think, I think Man United fans think he's right up there, and so when he's playing like this, it's a big job. I don't think he is. I think he's just a solid Premier League centre-half.
Okay, right, we'll move on to Jack Timby.
Yeah, so this is a former So, ironically, his sister is why we're doing this podcast so early, because she arrives to visit with her boyfriend this weekend. So it's your fault, Beth. But we go back a long way. The Timmy, so Paul his dad is the one who gave me my debut at Boston Cricket with 14 in first team, and then latterly became coach at Woodall, and then obviously I then captained Jack at Woodall, and then he then captained Woodall to the title in my first year here. So go back a long way. But what Jack has done was at Lords last night, the home of cricket, to collect his Walter Lawrence Trophy. Now these are a bunch of awards given out to the fastest hundreds of the season every year. So although he wouldn't have been there, he was in great company, because the fastest first class century went to Liam Livingstone for his 100 for Lancashire Light, and of course he's over here in the UAE playing for England. So, but he would have been there, and Jack won the fastest century university cricket. So he got in a semi-final against Loughborough. He scored 152 off 152 balls. Nice. So he broke Leeds Beckett's University's record at the same time, and became scored the fastest 100 in university cricket.
Excellent, well, congratulations.
So he was at Lords last night. So Jacko, the giraffe we used to call him, he was 12 when he first started playing senior cricket for Woodall. Well done, mate, and I hope you enjoyed Lords, because what a fantastic achievement.
Yeah, well done, the giraffe.
And go well, avoid any injuries this winter, and get yourself a contract next summer.
Fingers crossed. Right, while we're staying on cricket, England.
Fabulous.
Is there a better team at the moment at T20?
No, I think people have obviously, particularly will say Pakistan, but I don't think so. I think England threw, and the reason I say that is that they demolished Australia, which was fantastic.
Means you're going to get whooped at the Ashes.
On Saturday evening when I was there. It's just a shame there wasn't more Aussies in the ground. That's the only disappointment. And then I think to smashed Aussie, and then of course on Monday evening in Sharjah on a difficult wicket, very professional, completely different kind of game. And I was there. It was a hell of a game, actually, really good. It was nip and tuck.
Yeah.
England would bother halfway through, then Butler and Morgan came through and brought a freak of an innings, absolute freak of an innings. And then even with the ball, Sri Lanka were going for it, they were up with it, and then we had an injury to Mills, and we had to rejuggle his bowlers, ended up bowling spin at the end, but great win. And what I will say is, I mentioned him a few minutes ago with Morgan, he found some form with the bat, and my goodness, now I've been watched him as 3 times now close hand, his captaincy is unbelievable. In a game that's mental and the fans are crackers, he is calm as a cucumber.
Is he like a little Whammick?
He's like Whammick, yeah. Just cool, calm, collected. He's obviously feeling it inside, but it doesn't affect him. He slows the game down when needed, talks it utter class. So, yeah, fingers crossed that we continue.
So, at the moment, you said 2 form teams, Pakistan and England.
Yeah, definitely.
That make a taste.
So, I think they'll finish top of the groups. I think it'll be. He said Africa, Australia from our group, and likely New Zealand from the group. So
India, I've still got a chance, but
the problem is I rate New Zealand, so it looks like we could meet New Zealand in the semi-final.
Repeat the final.
And I rate New Zealand a good side. So, but if you're going to win a tournament, you've got to beat the best teams at some point.
That is correct. You need to beat the best teams. Right, okay, on to fancy football. I seem to have taken a plummet. I've done Jack of recent.
I've gone up. I'm 90th now.
Oh, yeah, well, I'm flying, mate. I'm down to 19th, but I seem to... a friend of mine rang me last night, and he was like, look, he said, I'm going to be honest with you, mate. He said, I put Salah in at the weekend as captain, and every time I make a change, that player seems to change his form. He said, so give us a shout out who you want to change form this weekend. And I'll put him in, and I guarantee he has a stinker.
All right.
So I'm going to take Salah off captain and maybe put something like Ronaldo in.
Yeah, Ronaldo, yeah.
And ruin everybody else's fancy football. But yes, we do have our weekly winner, which is one of our own.
One of our Harry Kane?
Yeah, no. Chris Mulgrew, so congratulations, Mully. You've won the weekly prize. And the monthly prize was, well, we thought it was going to be quite close, but he's ended up winning by 24 points in the end. Mark Burton Wood with Burton Wood FC, that's the original name there. I don't know where you spelled that from.
I don't know.
Yeah, really thinking outside
Took
the
hard
box.
there. That took longer than to pick his team.
Yeah, so Burton Wood FC from Mark Burton Wood, get in contact and you won the monthly prize, which is free brunch.
Free brunch at the
Void.
Void. Yeah.
So congratulations.
Get them out too.
Big games this weekend, so get yourself sorted. But at the end of the day, Jack,
What do we know?